town, Hollow Creek, West Virginia. Character Sarah Connors. It was a chilly October evening when Sarah Connors first moved to Hollow Creek, a small town nestled in the Appalachian Mountains. She was a city girl looking for a fresh start, having recently lost her job and relationship in the hustle of life. Hollow Creek, with its quiet charm and old world feel, seemed like the perfect escape. Sarah rented a modest house on the outskirts of town, a century-old farmhouse that had been vacant for years. The locals spoke little about it, but Sarah didn't mind. She had a knack for breathing new life into places that others thought were forgotten. However, it didn't take long before she realized something was wrong with this house. The first night she spent there was uneventful, just the sounds of the wind howling through the trees and the creaking of the old wooden beams. But as the days wore on, Sarah began to notice subtle things, a faint, distant whisper in the hallway when she was alone, the shadow of someone passing by the corner of her vision, only to find no one there when she turned to look. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Sarah decided to explore the attic, which had been locked when she moved in. The door, hidden behind an old armoire, was slightly ajar. She hesitated before pushing it open. The moment she stepped inside, a rush of cold air hit her face, and the faintest smell of old tobacco lingered in the air. The attic was cluttered with boxes and old furniture covered in dusty sheets. But what caught Sarah's eye was a large framed portrait leaning against the wall. The picture was of a man, tall, with sharp features, his eyes dark and unsettling. There was something about the expression on his face that made Sarah uneasy. She couldn't look away. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She lay awake in bed, listening to the creaks and groans of the house settling. Suddenly, she heard it, the whispering. It was faint at first, but then it grew louder, as if someone was right outside her door, speaking in hushed tones. "Sarah," the voice murmured. Frozen with fear, Sarah didn't dare move. She waited, the silence stretching, and then the whisper came again, this time clearer. "Sarah, you shouldn't have come here." The voice sounded so real, so close. Her heart raced as she forced herself to get up and open the door. The hallway was empty, bathed in the soft glow of the moonlight seeping through the window. Nothing was there, but the whispering didn't stop. It followed her through the house, always just out of reach. Each night, the voices grew louder, more urgent, and the shadows in the corners of her vision darker and more defined. One day, Sarah took a walk into town and spoke to an elderly woman who had lived there for as long as anyone could remember. The woman's face grew pale when Sarah mentioned the house. "You live there?" the woman asked, her voice trembling. "It's cursed." The man in the portrait, his name was Edward Hayes. He was the last owner of that house. He disappeared one night, just vanished without a trace. But they say he's still there, trapped, and anyone who dares to live there becomes his next victim. Sarah laughed it off at first, but by then, the whispers were too constant to ignore, the shadows too real. One night, unable to take it anymore, she confronted the house. She demanded to know what it wanted. The moment she said those words, the temperature dropped sharply, her breath visible in the air. And then, from the corner of the room, the shadow emerged. The man from the portrait, his eyes cold and void. He reached out to her, his voice now a low, guttural growl. "Leave now, or you will be lost. Forever." Terrified, Sarah packed her bags and fled, leaving Hollow Creek behind. To this day, no one knows exactly what happened to her after that night. Her name is spoken in hushed tones, just another warning for anyone who dares to live in the house on the hill. And as for the portrait, it's still there, in that old attic, waiting for the next soul to wander in. Some say Sarah Connors never left Hollow Creek. Some say her whispers can still be heard on those cold October nights, calling to anyone who might listen.